Good evening, folks, and welcome back to day number 54 of the Bible in 365. Today we are taking a look at Numbers chapter 34 through 36, which does in that book, which is so awesome, another book under our belt. And then we do take a look at Deuteronomy chapter 1, verses 1 through 15. We've got a lot to cover today, folks, so y'all know the drill. We're going to go ahead and get started. All right, folks, so picking up in Numbers chapter 34. Numbers chapter 34 deals with the boundaries of the Promised Land. And these are specific boundaries. They're not just kind of like, oh, somewhere over there to, kind of over there. So it's not really eyeballed whatsoever. They are very detailed boundaries, especially for that day and age. And so here we see that there are boundaries set up in every direction, south, north, east, and west, and it gives us the specific boundary lines and where they are going to be drawn. Once again, so this land, the land of inheritance, the land of promise, the land that the Lord is gifting unto the Israelites, the land of Canaan, is going to be the inheritance for the 9.5 tribes. 9.5 because 2.5 tribes, so the tribe of Reuben, Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh have already received their inheritance to the east of Jericho because they saw this land suitable for the livestock that they were raising. And so essentially here we see within Numbers chapter 34 that Eleazar, the son of Aaron, who is now acting as the priest, along with Joshua, the son of Nun, who is taking over from Moses, are going to be the men who help divvy up this land amongst the Israelites. So they're in charge of this process. And so they say that there's going to be the ancestral tribes are represented essentially by a leader from each tribe, and the inheritance will be gifted to this person, and then that person deals with it amongst their tribe and gives a portion to each clan as they kind of see fit. So the responsibility gets tiered. Now, moving forward to Numbers chapter 35. What is really cool about Numbers chapter 35 is it shows us that the Lord is thinking about the Levites. The Levites aren't receiving a whole just section of land. They're receiving cities all throughout the land, and this is because they have priestly duties, and they're the only ones who can do that. So they need to carry them out all throughout the land. That way people aren't having to travel all the way across the land just to do daily sacrifices. And so essentially what's happening here is they are given 48 cities. It gives us the dimension of those cities. The cities are 1,000 by 1,000 cubits, and then they will be walled. And then from the wall, there's another 1,000 cubits in every direction. So essentially they're gifted land, which equals 2,000 by 2,000 cubits. Now, 6 of these cities are cities of refuge. A city of refuge is a place that a manslayer, so someone who has killed someone, can go and they can flee from their avenger until they stand before the congregation of Israel to face justice and essentially have a fair trial. And there are instructions on what that trial and the justice process looks like in the second half of Numbers chapter 35. All right, moving forward to Numbers chapter 36. This deals with female heirs. So like the daughters of Zelophehad, there's a concern that when it comes to inheritance, if these daughters marry a man from another tribe, that particular tribe is going to receive their land. And so you'll have land that's kind of botched up, so it won't be contiguous for one tribe. It'll have like a little part of a tribe over here and over there. And so in order to keep all the land together for each ancestral tribe, women or females who receive inheritance, like the daughters of Zelophehad, have to marry within their ancestral tribe. And I believe more specifically within their father's clan. So like the daughters of Zelophehad essentially marry their cousins, so their uncle's children. And this is to keep the land together. So it doesn't cause nearly as many problems. Now, moving forward to Deuteronomy chapter 1. So in Deuteronomy chapter 1, we see that Moses is speaking to the Israelites there alongside the Jordan, just beyond the wilderness. So we know that they're across from Jericho. So that's roughly where this is taking place. And it tells us that Moses talks about this command that the Lord had given them in Horeb to move and to leave Horeb, the mountain of the Lord, to or towards Kadesh Barnea, and how they are going to go and move to inherit the promised land. So Moses is recounting the history of their journey, and this is talking about the generation before the one that he is addressing. And he then recounts on how those who are in leadership came to be in leadership, how this system of government essentially came to happen and came to exist. And what had happened is that Israel had grown so large, Moses couldn't lead it by himself. And so he had each tribe appoint a chief amongst them, someone who was wise and experienced and could lead. And then Moses ceremonially appointed them. And then under each of those tribal chiefs or leaders came other leaders. So you would have someone like the chief who was in charge of thousands, and then someone who was in charge of hundreds, and then 50s and 10s and so on. So it's just this whole system of a hierarchy of authority and leadership that creates some sort of governance and structure amongst the chaos to make life a little bit easier for those in leadership, and spreads out the responsibility. All right, folks, so it is here in the middle of this public address that Moses is having with the Israelites that we are ending our reading for today. All right, folks, so I hope that you'll join me tomorrow as we take a look at Deuteronomy chapter 1, beginning in verse 16, and explore all the way to Deuteronomy chapter 3, ending in verse 29. As always, folks, God bless.